Hello and thanks for staying with us. It's time again for Matters Arising. My name is Amechi Anakwu. Of course, you know on this program we take deep look at major issues in the news and of course the reorientation program launched by the president last week. That's Change Begins With Me is still reverberating across the length and breadth of the country. Citizens throwing back the challenge to those in authority, telling them to indeed lead by examples. But some others saying, indeed, there is merit in the move taken by the president, and is one move that we are ultimately introducing discipline in an indisciplined Nigerian society. We shall be trading on this issue again for today. But before we get to that point, as usual, we start with the news of the day. And this one is coming from Imo State. That's about Ohaji Egbema and Uguta communities. These are the oil-producing states in Imo State, the same place where you have militant activities, just as you have in the Niger Delta. But this time around, those militants operating in that part of the country have indeed thrown up their arms and of course, said they are dropping that vices to indeed lend support to the Buhari administration, taking advantage of the amnesty program in place for them. And it is one good news for Nigeria, which is struggling to indeed raise its oil production to its regular 2.2 million barrels per day. Currently stands at about 1.5 million as a result of increased militancy in the Niger Delta. But good news coming from Imo State.
My community, local government, state government, and federal government. Four, that the arms, ammunition, or dangerous weapons, which I have this day, surrendered, or will subsequently surrender, to the government of Imo State, and other security agencies, are the only weapons, arms, ammunition, in my possession, Governor, and all the personnel for peace. We thank you for this, our brothers. As government will take every necessary step to meet your needs and make life better for you. And on that reason, I hereby request that the army, from today henceforth, no more shooting in Oguta and Ohaji Egbema. Your presence there will be for peace. And police, I hereby declare you will be there to maintain peace and order. And to you, no more violence. After all the crossfires, after all the agitations, and after all the mayhems and killings and blowing up of pipelines, today peace has returned in Ohaji Egbema. To God be the glory. Thank you, and God bless all of you.
We hope lasting peace will, of course, enthrone in that part of the country, and indeed that act replicated in Nigeria's Niger Delta. Moving ahead now, the Edo governorship election postponed till September 28 is not too far away. The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, is concluding efforts for the second time and preparations to conduct history exercise. The commission is counting the cost of the postponement. Of course, it has to indeed take a look at logistics and, of course, some electronic devices already programmed for the initial scheduled date of September 10. These are some of the issues Oluwole Osazeuzi, that's the Director of Voter Education of INEC, told AIT that the commission is taking into consideration as the days towards that governorship election is getting nearer.
We were prepared for September 10th. And in the same stead, we are prepared for September 28th, but of course, following the postponement, certain basic things have to be undertaken. There has to be some retraining. There has to be logistics provision for the period we lost in the 17 odd days in between the scheduled, the earlier scheduled dates and the new scheduled dates. But we are working on those things. People of Edo State were prepared for those elections. The commission itself was prepared, but for the security report. We're prepared to continue. In fact, earlier on Thursday before the scheduled date, we did say we were prepared, and we were indeed prepared. All yardsticks had been done. We were supposed to move to the central bank to move the sensitive materials from the vaults of the bank to INEC headquarters for onward distribution to all local government offices and the rack centers. So yes, of course, financially we had mobilized. Our staff were on ground, both the ad hoc and the permanent staff. People had come from, our staff had come from neighboring states, and as far as Kaduna and other outlying states that we're going to use for the election. The commission members were there, the supervisory resident electoral commissioners from other states were there. And of course, vehicles that we have mocked up from other states to assist in the logistics deployment were there. So we had deployed materials, we had deployed personnel, we had activated the what we call the rack centers. Those are the camps that were to be used as staging posts for distribution of materials to the polling unit on election day. But that's where those things. Those things cost money. Some of those things required what service and generators that were to be used in the camps. So a lot, huge things in terms of financial implications, financial costs, but also in terms of risks taken in movement of personnel for the election. Oh, certainly millions, but we have not sat down to compute. I'm not aware of any computed figures. It's at the end of sitting down to compute and seeing what it will take to what took to remobilize and what it will take to remobilize. There's reverse logistics, which we had to do following deployment of most materials and personnel, and then that costs money to come back. The reconfiguration of the card readers, the allowances for the staff, both ad hoc and permanent staff, and then movement of materials to bring them back, and then the forward logistics preparatory to September 28th.
Okay, let's move to our main issue for discussion today. The change begins with me, a value reorientation program launched by the president some few days ago. It is something that has thrown up a lot of discussions, and if you like debate, across the length and breadth of the country. We shall have a two-part for the program today. Initially, I spoke with Dr. Chidia Maduekwe, who says it was not just a right step in the right direction. That's the action of the president, but a move that will indeed bring Nigeria towards the path of development and lasting peace. I started by asking him what is the essence of that change initiative, that rebranding, if you must call it, or the reorientation program that the president launched.
First of all, we must appreciate that change mantra was the basis for which this administration came into power, which meant that Nigerians were yearning for change, and this government is committed to those change. So by launching this program, what government have done is to walk their talk. They have now decided to launch what you can regard as a very robust socio-economic political vehicle for the manifestation of all the plan and actions and programs that government has in place. And they have focused it on the individual. That is all of us. It is when you say change begins with me, it is not the same thing as change begins with you. Me means me, I'm included as President Buhari. Change begins with me as President Buhari. Change begins with me as the Minister for Information. Change begins with me as the DJ NOA. Change begins with you as the roadside contractor, as the Akamusela. Change begins with all of us. That is the essence of this program, designed to mobilize the entire Nigerian mass to the scale which they have never been mobilized before, to have a sense of feeling, feeling that this country belongs to them, to have a proprietary right over this country and want to be part of this country, participate in the governance of this country from an interactive, engagement perspective, so that it's not about them and us. It's not about people in government and us who are not in government. It's not about the president and us. It's about all of us. That is the essence of the change begins with me that has just been launched.
Critics say the president is passing the buck, that the change should start from himself and other members of his cabinet.
As a matter of fact, I have addressed this when I said change begins with me, means that change begins with Buhari, change begins with Osibanjo, change begins with me, Chidi Amadekwe, and change begins with everybody. The launch was not about change begins with you. He said me. Me means inclusive. And by the way, can we look at what the president has been doing since he came to power? President has walked his talk. When president came to power, he was offered brand new set of vehicles as president, as his entitlement. He rejected them. He said, no, I have no business having this new set of vehicles because the one my colleague, my predecessor rode on, we are still okay by me. They will still be okay for the next 20, 30 years. So he refused to buy a new set of vehicles. And he set that template for other heads of parastatals. Now, parastatals, DGs are being appointed. You don't see them going, ministers are being appointed. You don't see them going to buy new set of Land Cruisers and SUVs romping all over the whole place. Because the president has used himself.
Which ones have they been using?
They are using the one that was left behind by the former people. So that is the change we are talking about. You walk your talk. So president started it. And president has cut down on so many excesses, so many expenditure subheads. That is the change we are talking about. Even though we had a dwindling economy, even though this country went into recession before President Buhari came into place.
Are you aware that the president
I wanted to finish. I'll come to his promise. Let me finish.
Yeah, we'll come to that.
I'll finish.
Are you aware that the president promised to reduce the presidential air fleet, which he himself said was unwieldy? And he has not done.
That's what I'm saying. I'll come to that. You made me, well, what I was trying to say before I asked this question, what I will still answer is that there has been a lot of cutting down and downsizing coming to the presidential fleet. I'm very happy you asked that question. Who bought those 11 private jets? Who? Is it President Buhari? That can tell you the mindset of those who were in government before President Buhari came. Our good brother and friend, President Goodluck Jonathan, inherited 7 private presidential jets.
He inherited more than 7.
Yeah, I'm trying to be fair to him. Within his period, he bought, is it 3 or 4? Within the period, 4 years. No, listen.
You don't have your facts.
No, I have my facts. No, I have my facts.
The ones I have says, Yaradua started the payment.
We are talking,
of one
please,
that was
please,
delivered
please.
During his tenure.
No, hold on, please.
And during his tenure, another one was also brought in.
Fine. We are saying, listen to me here. He inherited, and during his period, fresh new ones were acquired. The process of acquisition is not what we're here to discuss. But you can see the profligacy that was noted in the past regime. That means every year, the past regime was buying 1 new aircraft. And you think that a country can survive with the president buying 1 new aircraft every year. That's what it meant. Now Buhari has come into the stable. He is totally averse to the massive number of presidential jets around him.
16 months after?
Listen to me. Government works by what is known as due process. Buhari came. Remember? He first of all set up a committee to review and see how we can fly our national carrier. He says so. They are working on the template. And besides, let me ask you.
They're working on what template?
On the template of all this process of, like Garuba Shehu said the other day, that president is going to be reducing that. But I want to go beyond.
That was the same promise he made before he came into office.
No, that is a promise. Excuse me.
Nigerians are expecting action.
Yes, action. But I've told you something. Nigerians want the presidential jets to be laid off, sold out, isn't it? Now,
no, the president said it himself. Now,
I agree now. He is working in tune with the Nigerian wishes and hunger. And again, in line with his own frugality stance. President Buhari, I know, don't have any need for 10, 20 private jets. Well, he inherited them and is working at the process to put them in proper allocation and where they are supposed to be.
When will this process
Listen to me first. May I ask you, since you are asking me, what is the registration of those presidential jets internationally? They have a registration code. What is it? What is the registration code of those presidential jets? If you don't know, I'll tell you. Do you know or you don't know? So that will make progress. Do you know? If you don't know, those presidential jets are registered with the Nigerian International Code, which is 5N. Are you aware? Now, let me ask you another question. How many of our billionaires, those who own, before President Buhari came, it was said that Nigeria owned about 40, private jets. We are even over above South Africa. How many of those Nigerian private jets have 5N as registration? Do you know? Almost zero. Now, do you understand the implication of that 5N registration? Do you want to be told the truth? 5N registration of Nigerian jet means that they are not attractive to the global market for sale. What you bought, $10 million, for example, if it's registered 5N, you want to sell it, you may not get up to $1 million out of it because of where we are as Nigerians.
So
now,
is that why the president
understand me now?
the sale of those aircraft?
The president does not believe in wasting national assets. The committee is set up to now come up with appropriate plan of action that will give us, listen please, that will give us maximum value because these are taxpayers' money.
Can I ask you a question?
The president does not fly 2 jets, 3 jets at the same time.
Now, I recall President Obasanjo sold off one of the fleets in the national, in the presidential air fleet. He didn't set up a committee. He sold it off by way of auction. He didn't need a committee to sell off that jet. Why is this president setting up a committee
because,
to sell off 11 jets?
Because the challenges we have today is different from the challenges we had yesterday. Because the president is thinking about how do we raise a national carrier. Because the president knows that if these jets are going to be sold outside, people will not give it appropriate value. At the time Obasanjo sold the ticket, the plane you're talking about to Rochester, Colorado, many Nigerians can come forward to say we want to buy the Nigerian presidential jet. How many Nigerians can come forward today, knowing that they have not paid their taxes adequately to buy the Nigerian jet? So the committee is working. I remember there are some mistakes we make. We just hear presidential jet. We think that President Buhari is all flying those jets. First of all, the one that President Buhari rides is called Nigerian Air Force One. I hope you know that.
Well,
so that we clear it. No, we must flee the jet. No. It's very important. Don't stop me halfway. It is important. We are in this interview for Nigerians to be educated. If you want to cut me off, Nigeria will not hear my view. They don't know what is happening with the presidential jet. You are not fair. I have not spent enough time. You must allow me make this last statement.
I'm in control here.
Thank you.
Determine the direction we're
Go ahead.
Now, you said the president is walking his talk. In what other ways is he walking those talks?
Thank you. President is influencing, inflating the economy heavily, unlike no other president has ever done. Despite our dwindling oil revenue, despite the sabotage from the Niger Delta that want to extinguish the life out of us, we still have the biggest national budget any government in this country has ever heard. We still have the largest amount of capital vote being devolved into the public. You know what capital vote does when it's sent into the public? It wakens up the economy. People, trickle down effect means that people get busy. We have the largest social safety network intervention that no administration before this has had before. And it is more important.
That's the 500 billion errors.
And still more coming.
The last time we checked, we heard it's only 20 billion that has been written.
Fine. We have a budget cycle till next year. You should understand that. And this money I release as they come. You should know that the country is passing one of the most gruesome financial maladjustment. And you need a man of sterling character, quality, and confidence in himself, and is leading us out of this situation. And we must be able to understand that the right things are being done. Finally, may not be finally, I don't know whether the last question, but in my statement, we tend to make the mistake that Buhari came with a magic wand, and all of a sudden, things will turn around. We tend to forget that recession started before Buhari came into power. We tend to forget that when Buhari came into power, we started paying the debt that were left behind by the previous government who had all the boom. We tend to forget.
What debt are you?
Debt, you are talking about debt. Just a couple of weeks ago, we paid 65 billion naira for fertilizers that were ordered by the past regime. They didn't pay. Some months ago, we paid 1.7 trillion naira for fuel subsidy that were ordered by the other government. They didn't pay. Some months ago, we paid the counterpart fund for the Nigerian railway with the Chinese, so that our railway line can start being constructed from Calabar to from Calabar to Lagos. They want the northwest line from.
You signed the contract.
We didn't sign. We renegotiated and then paid the counterpart fund.
How much was paid out?
Check up your records. I'm not here to talk figures I don't know about.
Okay, now, in blaming the past administrations for being the reason why we have found ourselves in this recession, is the president exhibiting that attitude of change begins with me?
Yes, very, very much. And remember, you chose to call it blame. I choose to call it stating the facts. I'm an Igbo man. And we have a proverb that says, you must know where the rain began to beat you so that you can know what to do. The Englishman will say, you must look, if you don't have history, you are left with hysteria. And when you are left with hysteria, you become a nincompoop. Buhari does not want Nigerians to be left with history. He wants Nigerians to be instilled in the history of their past, so that the mistake of yesterday cannot happen again today. In Israel, they have what is called never. Never again. It's predicated on the history of their past, when over 6 million Jews were burnt off or smoked gas in Germany. Today, it is a driving policy of the Israeli government. Never again. So there is nothing wrong. If we know how our people, our mothers and children and youth are suffering, we now put into them the history as to what happened. 51 trillion naira in 6 years. We accumulated more than the entire government of Nigeria from days of independence till death, and nothing was done to use and sort out our infrastructural situation and put this country on the front burner of a great nation. Our youth must understand. When they understand, they will now start knowing that the change is not about Aso Rock. The change is about me and you. Today, I'm a farmer. I'm a medical doctor. We're trained from one of the best medical schools, that's the University of Ibadan. When I went to Ibadan, it was called the Harvard of the Commonwealth. But do you know something? I'm acquiring lands here and there to go and farm. It doesn't remove my MBBS away from me. It doesn't remove being former chairman, House Committee on Defense. It doesn't remove me being former federal commissioner on federal character. It doesn't remove me being XYZ, being manager in oil and gas company. It doesn't remove me. Today, America is telling us that they are no more exporting over 300,000 metric tons of rice to Nigeria. You don't know how much Thailand is no more exporting, how much India is no more exporting. We spend $22 billion every year to import food. How happy are you? So when Buhari is talking about yesterday, he is talking for us young, old men, women, youth, to have a sense of history.
So that we don't repeat.
So that we don't repeat the what of the past. And then leapfrog into the high pedestal of agenda-setting manifestation of our destiny that God has destined this country to be. We cannot continuously be a giant and then we are crawling on the ground. And I want to also remind you that those who are, metaphorical would tell you that the rabbit can jump faster, higher, run much than the tortoise. But the rabbit cannot live up to 15 years. The tortoise will live 150 years. Even though it cannot jump the height of rabbit, they live in the same forest. So a certain approach is needed for a certain objective to be attained. Nigeria is a country that is going to live more than 150 years, more than 150,000 years. So you need a template of contemplative self-discovery in order for us to understand that change agenda is not a 100-meter dash. It is a marathon. The 100-meter dash is that of running like a plane without a pilot to crash. But when it's a marathon, you are being contemplative, you are taking measured steps, you are building stamina, and you know you can continue to run and run and run and run like the tortoise.
Quite a heated conversation there with Dr. Chidera Madwekwa of the Buhari's Media Support Group. Of course, offering his opinion on the launch of a new reorientation program by the president tagged Change Begins With Me. We'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll stay with the same issue, but from a different perspective. Please don't get away.
Must do everything we can to consolidate the peace that so much was paid to secure, and we must work to heal the wounds of war. The people of Liberia know that government cannot save the country. Only their own strength, their determination, their creativity, resilience, and their faith can do that. But they have the right to expect the essentials that only a government can provide.
The issue remains that change begins with me. What is the essence? Should it begin with leaders or should it begin with the followers in Nigeria? That's the issue, as I'm being joined by Chief Dan Nwanyanwu, a legal practitioner and former chairman of Labour Party. He's, of course, a member of the National Institute and a recipient of the National Honours Order of the Federal Republic. Thanks for joining us on the program.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, that change begins with me. Is one program the president says will indeed turn around the attitudinal makeup of Nigerians. How timely do you think that program is?
Well, the timing, very wrong. The concept, refused to key. Let me start by saying leaders all over the world and public officers are elected to take care of us. They are elected to think about us. And we give them the necessary tools through funding. We provide accommodation. We provide everything that will make their work easy from our resources. In fact, we may bury them when they die while serving the country. It is their responsibility to think about us and show concern about the citizens they govern. President Muhammad Buhari came under a mantra of change. And he was very direct. He was very specific. He left nobody in doubt as to what he was going to do. During the campaign, Mr. President said, I will bring back the Chibok girls within this period. I will make 1 naira equal to $1. I will pay unemployed graduates, skilled and unskilled, poor citizens of this country, 5,000 naira a month. I will give free feeding. These are direct commitments. That is the charter.
Or the social contract.
The social contract, the charter between President Muhammad Buhari and us. He was direct. And I want to say, the problem with this country.
But at some point, the president tried to explain it out. He said, these were promises not coming directly from me, but from my party.
You see, that is passing the buck. The president came on a vehicle. And that is where I don't agree with people. The president came on a vehicle, APC. That vehicle drove him to the villa. The president cannot come now and say that vehicle has no air conditioner. Why didn't he go down on the way to villa? And that is why I quarrel with party leaders who run away from governance after installing government. I have said it before. The APC leadership they've run away from their responsibilities in guiding and advising the president towards implementing the programs, the mission and vision of APC. President doesn't have his own program. Those programs were keyed into the APC program. So the leadership, I had Oyego, he said, we only provided the vehicle to the president. As a party chairman who was on that seat for 10 years, a record nobody has broken in this country. I take great exception to that, with greatest respect.
What role should the party play
that
in
is,
terms of
that is nothing about,
programs and
there
policies?
is nothing about governance that the party should not be involved, including appointments.